The sky lit up over New York City on an ordinary Tuesday morning. It wasn't the sun or lightning. It was something else, something that made every screen on Earth go blank at the same time. Then the message came. People of Earth, we come in peace. The Galactic Council wishes to speak with your leaders. Commander Jack Wilson stood on the roof of the United Earth Defense Force headquarters, watching the massive ship hover above the city. It was silver and smooth, shaped like a giant teardrop. No visible weapons, but that didn't mean much. He adjusted his uniform and touched the communication device in his ear. All units stand by. No aggressive moves, he ordered. 3 days later, Wilson sat across from a being who called himself Ambassador Gray. The alien looked almost human, except for the pale blue skin and eyes that were too large. They sat in a plain room with only a table between them. "We have watched your kind for some time," Gray said, his voice oddly musical. "Your progress is remarkable. Most species take 3 times as long to reach your level of technology." Wilson kept his face blank. "We're quick learners." "Indeed." Gray smiled, showing teeth that were perfectly white. "The Council governs over 200 species across this arm of the galaxy. We believe it is time for humanity to join us." "Just like that?" Wilson asked, raising an eyebrow. "You show up and invite us to the party." Gray's smile didn't change. "Earth sits at what you might call a crossroads. Many travel routes pass near your solar system. Your position is valuable." Wilson didn't like the way Gray said valuable. He'd been a soldier long enough to know when someone wanted something. "And what does membership in this council involve?" Wilson asked, leaning forward. "Benefits, of course. Technology, medicine, protection, knowledge of the stars." Gray spread his long-fingered hands. "We ask only that you follow council laws and allow limited access to your world for scientific study." The world leaders debated for a week. Some wanted to jump at the chance. Others, like Wilson, had doubts. But in the end, they agreed to open talks. The first council scientists arrived a month later. They set up labs and asked for tours of Earth's natural areas. They seemed especially interested in the rainforests and oceans. "Your planet has remarkable biodiversity," one told Dr. Emma Adams, Earth's top expert in alien biology. "We've never seen anything quite like it." Adams watched them collect samples: water, soil, plants. They seemed hungry for information about Earth's life forms. "It's strange," she told Wilson over coffee one evening. "They have technology that could take them across the galaxy, but they act like kids in a candy store over our bacteria." Wilson nodded. "Gray keeps talking about Earth's strategic location, but they spend all their time looking at bugs and plants." "Maybe they're just scientists being scientists," Adams suggested, but she didn't sound convinced. The next day, Wilson received reports that council members had been seen in restricted areas. When confronted, they apologized for the misunderstanding. That night, Wilson couldn't sleep. He went to his office and pulled up every report about the visitors. Something wasn't adding up. His phone rang at 3 a.m. It was Adams. "Commander, you need to come to my lab right now," she said, her voice tight with tension. "What's wrong?" "I found something in their ship's database. They didn't just come here to make friends." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "They're desperate, and Earth is their last hope." Wilson grabbed his jacket. "I'll be there in 20 minutes." As he drove through the dark streets, the giant council ship gleamed in the moonlight above the city. Wilson had a feeling that first contact was about to get a lot more complicated. Dr. Adams' lab was lit by a single screen showing strange symbols. She didn't look up when Wilson entered. "How did you get this?" Wilson asked, looking at the alien text. "One of their scientists left a data pad. I borrowed it." Adams tapped the screen. "My translation program is still working on most of it, but these parts are clear. They're taking DNA samples from every living thing they can find." Wilson frowned. "That's not surprising. They said they wanted to study our biology. But look at this." Adams pointed to a section highlighted in red. They're testing our plants and animals against something they call the rot. It's some kind of disease. Wilson leaned closer. A disease. Are they worried about catching something from us? Adams shook her head. I think it's the opposite. I think they already have this disease. They're looking for a cure here. Wilson straightened up. That's not what they told us they were here for. The next morning, Wilson called an emergency meeting with his top advisors. They agreed to increase security around all council activities. By afternoon, 3 council scientists had been caught taking samples from protected areas. When questioned, they refused to explain. Wilson marched into the council's temporary headquarters, pushing past guards until he found Ambassador Gray. You lied to us, Wilson said. Gray's large eyes blinked slowly. I shared what was necessary. You're looking for a cure for something. A disease. Wilson crossed his arms. Tell me what the rot is. For the first time, Gray's perfect calm cracked. He motioned to his guards to leave the room. You were not supposed to find out this way, Gray said. His voice had lost its musical quality. Then how were we supposed to find out? After you took what you needed and left. Gray stood and walked to a window overlooking the city. The rot is destroying worlds across council space. It started 50 years ago on a mining colony. Now it has spread to 67 planets. What does it do? Wilson asked. It breaks down organic matter at the cellular level. Plants, animals, people, all turn to dust. Gray turned back to Wilson. Billions have died already. And you think the cure is here, on Earth? Gray nodded. Your planet's unique biology. Something here is resistant. We found promising results in your rainforest plants and some ocean life. Wilson felt a chill. Why didn't you just ask for our help? Would you have given it if we had told you the truth from the beginning? Gray's eyes narrowed. We needed time to find the right compounds. So you lied. We did what was necessary for survival. Wilson stepped closer to Gray. I want full disclosure. Now, what exactly do you need from Earth? Gray hesitated. There is something I haven't told you. The treatment process. It's not simple extraction. What does that mean? Gray's voice dropped. To synthesize enough of the cure, we would need to process large amounts of biological matter. Very large amounts. Wilson's hands clenched into fists. How large? To save the infected worlds, we would need. Gray paused. Most of your planet's biomass. Wilson felt like the floor had dropped away beneath him. You're talking about destroying Earth. We would save some of your people. 10% could be relocated. Wilson stared at the alien, speechless with anger. You must understand, Gray said. Trillions of lives against billions. The council made its choice. And what about our choice? Wilson asked, his voice deadly quiet. Gray looked away. The council has already voted. They are preparing the formal request now. Wilson turned to leave. Commander, Gray called after him. If Earth refuses, the council will not accept that answer. Wilson stopped at the door. Then they should be prepared for a fight. As Wilson walked back to headquarters, the council ship loomed overhead, no longer looking peaceful but threatening. He needed to warn the world leaders. He needed to find Adams. The battle for Earth's future had begun. The emergency meeting of the United Nations lasted 18 hours. Leaders from every country argued as Wilson and Adams presented what they had learned. They want to kill our planet to save theirs, Wilson said, his voice echoing in the large hall. On the main screen, images from Dr. Adams' lab showed cellular breakdown caused by the rot. Next to it were projections of Earth after the Council's extraction process, a dead world with no oceans, no forests, no life. They're offering to save 10% of our population, said the President of the European Union. That's over 800 million people, and sacrifice the other 7.2 billion. The Chinese premier countered, this is not a negotiation. It's genocide. The debate raged on. Some leaders argued that humanity had a duty to help save trillions of alien lives. Others insisted that their first responsibility was to Earth. As dawn broke, a new message arrived from the Council. The room fell silent as Ambassador Gray's face appeared on the screen. "People of Earth," Gray said, his voice formal. "The Grand Council has voted. We officially request that Earth sacrifice itself for the greater good of all sentient life in the galaxy." Gray's large eyes looked directly into the camera. "We do not make this request lightly. The rot has claimed 67 worlds and 3 trillion lives. Without Earth's biological compounds, it will claim thousands more planets." The room remained silent as Gray continued. "We offer evacuation for 800 million humans to Council worlds. You will be given new homes, new lives. The rest," Gray paused, "the rest will be honored as saviors of galactic civilization." The Brazilian president stood up. "And if we refuse?" Gray's expression didn't change. "The Council hopes you will make the right choice. You have 7 Earth days to decide." The screen went black. The room erupted in shouting. Wilson slipped out and found Adams waiting in the hallway. "They're going to say yes, aren't they?" she asked quietly. Wilson watched the chaos through the door. "Some will, others won't. Either way, we're looking at a divided planet facing an advanced alien force. What do we do?" Wilson checked that no one was listening. "I need you to come with me." They drove to a secure military facility outside the city, deep underground. Wilson unlocked a heavy door that required his eye scan and voice print. Inside was a laboratory filled with strange technology. "What is this place?" Adams asked, looking around in wonder. After the Council ships arrived, one of their smaller vessels crashed in the Pacific. "We recovered it before they did." Wilson pointed to the alien craft in the center of the room. "My team has been studying it." Adams walked around the ship. "Does it work?" "Mostly. We've figured out the basics." Wilson tapped a panel, and lights came on inside the craft. "I need you to take it." Adams stared at him. "Take it where?" "Away from Earth. Away from Council space." Wilson handed her a data drive. "This has everything we know about the rot. You're the best scientist we have. If anyone can find an alternative solution, it's you. You want me to run?" Adams shook her head. "I can't leave everyone behind." "You're not running. You're our best hope." Wilson gripped her shoulders. "If you stay, and the Council takes Earth, everything is lost. If you go, maybe, just maybe, you can find another way." Adams looked at the ship, then back at Wilson. "I'll need a team. Other scientists. I'd already contacted them. 5 of the best minds from around the world. They'll meet you here tonight." Outside, they could hear distant shouting. Protests had broken out in cities across the globe as news of the ultimatum spread. "The world is already tearing itself apart," Wilson said. 7 days isn't much time." Adams straightened her shoulders. "Then we better not waste it." Wilson nodded. "Remember, the Council will be watching. Whatever you find, whatever you do, don't come back until you have a solution, or until Earth is gone." The stolen alien ship hummed as it left Earth's atmosphere. Dr. Adams sat at the controls, her knuckles white. Behind her, 5 other scientists checked their equipment. "Are we being followed?" asked Dr. Rodriguez, a biochemist from Mexico. Adams checked the radar. "Not yet. The stealth systems are working." They had left Earth 3 hours after midnight. Wilson had created a distraction, a false alarm about Council activity on the other side of the planet. By the time anyone noticed the missing ship, they would be beyond the moon. "Is everyone clear on the mission?" Adams asked, looking at her team. Dr. Lee, a geneticist from South Korea, nodded. "Find a way to synthesize the cure without destroying Earth." "But we don't even know if that's possible," said Dr. Patel, an Indian microbiologist. "That's why we're here," Adams replied, "to make it possible." The ship's computer beeped. A course had been set to a system far from Council space. Wilson had given them coordinates to a region where outlawed species were rumored to live, species that had refused to join the Council or had been expelled from it. If anyone knew the Council's weaknesses, it would be them. 4 days until we reached the border of Council territory, Dr. Curry, a French biomechanical engineer, reported. Adams nodded. Let's use that time wisely. Dr. Weber, can you analyze these samples? Dr. Weber, a German botanist, took the vials Adams handed her. They contained every plant and animal cell type that the Council had shown interest in. We need to understand what they're looking for, Adams said. What makes these Earth organisms special? Back on Earth, Wilson sat in a meeting with world leaders who had chosen to resist. Only 40% of nations had voted to accept the Council's offer. We need more time, said the Russian president. We're not ready for war against an advanced alien force. Time is the one thing we don't have, Wilson replied. The Council's deadline is in 5 days. What about Adams? Asked the Japanese Prime Minister. Have you heard anything? Wilson shook his head. Not yet, and we won't. Any transmission could be tracked. On a screen behind them, news reports showed riots in major cities. Some people demanded surrender to save lives across the galaxy. Others vowed to fight to the end. The Council ships remained in orbit, silent and waiting. That night, Wilson was woken by a call. Council soldiers had raided the facility where the stolen ship had been kept. They know, Wilson told his second-in-command. Prepare our forces. In deep space, Adams' team worked around the clock. The ship's lab was small but had advanced equipment they had never seen before. I found something, Dr. Rodriguez said on the 3rd day. Look at these cells. On the screen, Earth plant cells glowed with a strange light when exposed to the rot virus. They're not just resistant, Dr. Lee said, leaning closer. They're actively fighting back. Adams felt a surge of hope. Can we isolate the compound? Dr. Weber nodded. I think so, but producing enough to treat entire planets. One problem at a time, Adams said. A loud alarm cut through their discussion. On the main screen, a large ship appeared. Council Patrol, Dr. Corey said, checking the sensors. They've spotted us. Adams rushed to the controls. Everyone hold on. She pushed the engines to full power. The stolen ship was fast, but not designed for combat. We can't outrun them for long, Adams said. We need somewhere to hide. Dr. Puttle pointed to the star map. There, an asteroid field. Adams turned the ship toward the dense cluster of rocks. Behind them, the Council ship fired a warning shot. They're not trying to destroy us, Adams realized. They want the ship back, and us with it. As they entered the asteroid field, Adams sent a message to the team. Whatever happens, protect the research. Earth is counting on us. The Council ship followed them into the darkness. The stolen ship drifted silently. Power systems shut down. Inside, Adams and her team waited in darkness. 3 hours passed before the Council patrol ship gave up the search and left the asteroid field. That was too close, Dr. Rodriguez whispered as Adams restored power. We've lost a day, Adams said, checking their course. And the Council knows we're out here. As they prepared to continue their journey, a new ship appeared on their sensors. It was unlike any Council vessel they had seen, rough and patched together from different materials. Before they could react, a voice came through their communication system. Earth vessel, power down and prepare to be boarded. Resistance is not advised. Adams looked at her team. They had no weapons, no choice. We surrender, she said. 10 minutes later, the airlock opened. 3 beings entered, tall and thin with gray skin and 4 arms each. Their faces were flat with 3 eyes in a triangle pattern. Humans, the leader said, tilting his head, far from home. We're on a mission, Adams explained, stepping forward. Earth is in danger. The Council finally came for you, did they? The alien didn't sound surprised. "You know about the council?" Dr. Lee asked. The leader made a sound like bitter laughter. "We are the nomads, exiled from council space 100 cycles ago." "Why?" Adams asked. "We refused to sacrifice our colony world when they demanded it." The nomad gestured for them to follow. "Come. Our leader will want to speak with you." They were taken to a massive ship hidden among the asteroids. Inside was an entire community, thousands of aliens living in a space city. The nomad leader, called Elder Tarl, listened as Adams explained their situation. "The rot," Tarl nodded. "We've heard rumors. The council keeps it secret, but news spreads. We found that Earth organisms can fight it," Adams said, showing her data. "But we need a way to synthesize the cure without destroying our planet." Tarl studied the information. "The council wouldn't have told you this, but they have the technology to create such a cure without destroying your world." "What?" Adams couldn't hide her shock. "They prefer the efficient method. Strip a planet, save many others. It's their way." Tarl's 3 eyes blinked in sequence. "But there are alternatives. More difficult, more time-consuming, but possible. Will you help us?" Adams asked. Tarl was silent for a long moment. "The council drove us from our homes, labeled us outlaws. For generations, we have hidden, surviving at the edges of space." He stood up. "Yes, human. We will help you." The next 2 days were intense. Nomad scientists worked with Adams' team, combining their knowledge with Earth's unique biology. "We're close," Dr. Weber said on the second night. "The synthetic compound is nearly stable." On the 3rd day, the lab erupted in cheers. They had done it, created a stable synthetic version of the cure that could be mass-produced without destroying Earth. But as they celebrated, alarms sounded throughout the nomad ship. "Council warships," a nomad officer reported. "A full battle fleet." "How did they find us?" Dr. Patil asked. Tarl's expression darkened. "They must have tracked your ship. We've been discovered." Adams looked at the star map. They were still 2 days from Earth. The deadline was tomorrow. "We need to warn Earth," she said, "and we need to get this cure to them." Tarl nodded grimly. "We can send a message, but it will reveal our position." "Do it," Adams said, "and prepare your fastest ship. I'm going back. The council fleet will try to stop you," Tarl warned. Adams looked at the vial containing their precious cure. "Then they'll have to catch me first." On Earth, Wilson was in the command center when the message arrived. A simple data burst from deep space. "We found it. Prepare for our return. Council knows." Hope and dread filled him in equal measure. Adams had succeeded, but now the race was truly on. The council's ultimatum expired at noon. Wilson stood on the roof of the defense headquarters, watching the sky. Around him, the world waited. At exactly 12, Ambassador Gray's voice echoed from every communication device on the planet. "People of Earth, your time to decide has ended." Gray's voice was cold and formal. 60% of your nations have refused our generous offer. This is unfortunate." Wilson's radio crackled. "Sir, we're detecting movement from the council ships." On the horizon, smaller vessels were breaking away from the main fleet, hundreds of them, heading toward major cities. "They're not waiting for an answer," Wilson realized. "They're taking what they want." Gray continued. "The council has decided. Earth will provide the cure, with or without your cooperation." Wilson gave the order. "Activate all defenses. This is not a drill." Around the world, military forces mobilized. Fighter jets scrambled to intercept the alien vessels. Missile systems locked onto targets. It wouldn't be enough. Everyone knew that. But humanity would not go quietly. In space, a small ship raced toward Earth. Adams piloted while Dr. Rodriguez prepared the data transmission. "We're still too far," Adams said, pushing the engines beyond safety limits. "We won't make it before they start the attack." Behind them, 3 nomad warships provided escort. They were old and battle-scared but heavily armed. Elder Tarl sends a message, Dr. Lee reported from the communication station. He says more ships are coming. The nomads have called all their scattered people. Adams nodded grimly. Tell him we're grateful, but we need to reach Earth now. The ship shuddered as she pushed it harder. On Earth, the first wave of Council ships broke through the defensive line. They deployed small pods that burrowed into the ground near forests and oceans. Extraction devices, Wilson told world leaders over an emergency call. They're starting the process. Reports came in from around the globe. Council forces landing in the Amazon, the Congo, the Great Barrier Reef, anywhere with rich biodiversity. Human forces fought back fiercely. A Council ship crashed in Russia, another in Brazil. But for every one they stopped, 5 more landed. Wilson's phone beeped with a secure message. Incoming ship detected. Not Council design. Claims to be friendly. Hope surged through him. Let them through. All forces, protect that ship. In orbit, Adams' vessel dodged Council fire as they descended toward Earth. Broadcast on all frequencies, she ordered. Let everyone know we have the cure. Dr. Rodriguez activated the transmission. Data flowed from their computers to every receiver on the planet. The formula for the synthetic cure, the method to produce it without harming Earth. We're also sending it to the Council ships, Dr. Lee said. Good, Adams replied. They need to know there's another way. The Council's main vessel, where Gray watched the invasion unfold, received the transmission. His assistants verified the data. It appears to be legitimate, one told him. A synthetic alternative. Gray hesitated. If this was true, the Council's entire justification for taking Earth would collapse. But if Earth kept this knowledge, ignore it, Gray ordered. Continue the extraction. On the command ship, a junior officer looked at his superior with shock. Sir, we're ignoring a viable alternative. The commander lowered his voice. The Council doesn't just want the cure. They want Earth. It's too valuable to leave in human hands. But those are our orders. Down on Earth, Wilson received the news with cold fury. The Council had never intended to spare their world. All forces, he commanded, defend Earth at any cost. As Adams' ship broke through the clouds, they saw the battle raging below. Human fighters attacking much larger Council vessels, ground forces surrounding landing sites. And behind Adams' ship, something else appeared. A massive fleet dropping out of faster-than-light travel. The nomads had arrived in force. The Council lied to everyone, Adams said, gripping the controls tightly. Now they'll learn what happens when you threaten Earth. Humanity had made its choice. The sky above Earth turned into a battlefield. Nomad ships, old but powerful, engaged the Council fleet. Adams' small vessel landed at the defense headquarters where Wilson waited. You made it, he said, helping her team unload their equipment. Barely. Adams handed him the data drive. Here's everything. The complete formula and production method. Wilson looked up at the battle overhead. Will it matter? The Council isn't interested in alternatives. The Council leaders aren't, Adams agreed. But their people might be. She explained her plan. The nomads had helped them modify the transmission to bypass the Council command ships and reach individual vessels directly. Every scientist, every crew member in their fleet now has the formula, she said. They know there's another way. Inside the Council command ship, Ambassador Gray received alarming reports. 3 of his extraction teams had stopped working. Crew members were questioning orders. This is mutiny, Gray hissed. Any who disobey will be executed. But the movement was spreading. On ship after ship, Council members from different species were making the same choice. They would not destroy a living world when an alternative existed. A junior officer entered Gray's command center. Sir, the flagship is calling. The High Council wishes to speak with you. Gray's confidence faltered. Put them through. The face that appeared on screen was old and stern. Ambassador Gray, we have received disturbing reports. Lies spread by the humans, Gray said quickly. We have verified the formula ourselves, the High Counselor replied. It appears to be viable. Why did you order the invasion to continue? Gray struggled to find words. Earth's position, its resources. We've had our eye on this system for generations. The High Counselor's expression hardened. You exceeded your authority. The Council's purpose is to preserve life, not destroy it for territorial gain. You are relieved of command. But it was too late to stop what had begun. The battle raged across Earth's skies. Nomad ships, now joined by defecting Council vessels, fought against Gray's loyal forces. On the ground, Wilson coordinated a daring strike. With Adams and a team of soldiers, they boarded a shuttle and headed for Gray's command ship. If we can capture Gray, we might end this faster, Wilson explained. They fought their way through the ship's corridors until they reached the command center. Gray stood waiting, a weapon in his hand. You've ruined everything, he snarled at Adams. We saved everything, she replied, including your own people from becoming planet killers. Before Gray could fire, one of his own guards stepped forward and disarmed him. The High Council has spoken, Ambassador. 3 days later, the fighting stopped. Council ships withdrew from Earth's orbit, all except those whose crews had chosen to stay. In New York, a new meeting took place. Representatives from Earth, the Nomads, and former Council worlds gathered to sign a historic agreement. The Earth Nomad Coalition welcomes all who wish to join, Wilson announced, standing tall at the podium. A new alliance based on mutual respect and the preservation of all worlds. Elder Tarl of the Nomads stood beside him. After generations in exile, we have found new friends and a new purpose. The synthetic cure was already being produced in facilities around the world. Ships would soon carry it to planets suffering from the rot. Adams watched from the side of the stage, feeling both proud and exhausted. A former Council scientist approached her. Your discovery will save billions, he said. But more than that, you've changed how we see the universe. No species has the right to demand another sacrifice. As the delegates celebrated, Adams stepped outside for a moment of quiet. The night sky looked different now, not just stars, but the lights of orbiting ships from a dozen worlds. We made our choice, she whispered. And it was the right one. On worlds across the galaxy, news spread. Earth had stood against the Galactic Council and won. More than that, they had offered a hand of friendship even to those who had tried to destroy them. The old order was gone. A new chapter in galactic history had begun.